Gone live. I'm going to wait a minute, let the audience build here. So I'll give you guys a second. And while that's going on, I'm going to eat a moon pie. Not a moon pie, it's an oatmeal pie. Maybe I'll nibble on it. I can't believe you hear that noise. That's the noise that Sissy loves. She usually comes running when she hears that. I don't know where she's at. Okay, guys, if you're watching the title, we'll get to it here in just a second. Just letting the numbers build. And get a few more people in here, and we'll get this thing going. How about the Astros? All right. For those of you that have been following along on the News Now community channel, you're aware of what's transpiring up in Fort Worth. I'll give you the quick version of it. If the mods would please post a link to the News Now community channel, you guys can go over there and catch up if you need to. So we had a police officer in Fort Worth that was doing a welfare check on a residence. Basically, the next door neighbor, called the police department's non-emergency number and reported that his neighbor's door was open. Thank you, landlady. Officer shows up and starts poking around. You can see from the body camera footage that, nothing is really askew. There's nothing that looks like it's happening. Now, when the weather changes, and I said this over on the community channel, a lot of people leave their windows and doors open. Okay, it's a very common thing to do. I won't say that I do it, but I do. It's the truth. So the officer's searching around. He goes in the backyard. He looks up, and somebody's standing in the window looking out. He pulls his gun, hollers, "Put your hands up," and shoots before anybody can even have a thought about raising their hands. It was far, far, far too quick. He shot and killed a young lady who was studying to be a doctor, and killed her. So here is the result. Now, this just happened early Sunday morning. The officer that afternoon resigned his position with the Fort Worth Police Department. And today, Monday, they have been getting hammered about it. The officer's name is, and I'll put all this in the description when I go back and edit it if it's not already there. The officer's name is Aaron Dean. He resigned his position this morning. Had he not resigned, the chief was prepared to fire him. The chief has also reported him to the state police licensing board as being released. What's the word? Under dishonorable conditions, which means he's going to have a hard time getting another job, but that doesn't really matter to him right now because he has been arrested. He was arrested, and he bonded out by 9 p.m. tonight. His bond amount was $200,000. I am very sure that the union was happy to post that for him. No big deal. The chief of police up there, he acted pretty quickly on this, and that's a good thing. The officer, honestly, if you watch the body cam footage, and again, Lan Lee, if you would, or one of the other mods. Oh, there's a link to the video. I see it. You can go over and watch the body camera footage, and there was no reason for this to happen. So they have arrested him, charged him with murder, and the FBI up there is investigating also for civil rights violations. She was in her residence, in her home, playing video games with her nephew. Now think about this. If you see a light outside your bedroom window, a flashlight, somebody's walking around your backyard, are you going to go look out the window to see who's out there? I would. It's a reasonable response. And the police should expect that. It's what any normal person would do. It shouldn't get you killed. The officer, the front doors were open. They had screen doors on them. He could have hollered. It was just a welfare check. How many times have we seen this in the past? This is what gets me. How many times have we seen a welfare check get somebody killed? Far too many. So many I can't even count them. So the officer's there for a welfare check. There's no report that there's a crime in progress. The neighbor just said it's unusual for the door to be open. Can you have an officer come by and make sure everything's okay? And from there, we go to somebody dies. Initially, the police department went after the victim. They were saying that they found a gun in her bedroom and all this stuff. You know what? Welcome to Texas. Okay, everybody's got guns here. That should be expected. Unless somebody's got it in their hand and they're shooting at you, you don't need to kill them. It's that simple. De-escalate. Which part of that do you not understand? De-escalate. Honestly, the safest thing, the thing we could do to make this country the safest it could possibly be is to disarm the police. I am really starting to feel that way. Just take their guns away. They'll be like the British police. Another thing, and I've said this before, and you'll see it in videos, liability insurance for police officers. Let me tell you, explain what I'm saying here. Doctors have liability insurance. If they screw up and they get sued, it's just like having traffic accidents. You can have an accident and it's not going to be a big deal. You get 2 accidents, 3 accidents, 4 accidents. At some point, you become uninsurable. Then what do? It's the same thing. We can do it with police. Make them get insurance, liability insurance, and then when these officers get sued and get judgments against them, then what we do is they become uninsurable. When they become uninsurable, they become non-police. They're no longer have the ability to be police officers. I think it's a great idea. Of course, the police unions aren't going to want it because, hey, that would mean that some of their business would go away. But what better way? Because nothing else is working. Nothing else is working. So what do? How do we get these police officers to start doing the right thing? Stop beating people. Stop shooting people. Stop doing all this stupid stuff. They have forgotten that they serve us. They work for us. They are servants, public servants. They're not kings. They're not lord and masters. And this is something that I run into so much out in the field. The biggest problem I have with officers is their ego. They think that they are gods. And that creates issues. So we get liability insurance. Every officer has to carry liability insurance. At the point that he becomes uninsurable, he can no longer work. as a police officer. He can go work at McDonald's, he can go work wherever, but he cannot be a police officer. I think it just makes sense. It just makes sense. So that's it, guys. There are links to the community channel in the chat. Go over there. You can see the videos, the body camera footage, and my review of that body camera footage. There are on the community page over there, on the community tab, there are posts for the news article from out of Fort Worth. It'll give you a lot more detail than what I just went into. I'm just here to give you quick news. I think it's great that the police chief took action. However, initially, this is not the direction they were going. Baka Shmail, I agree. Police have become domestic terrorists. They are rapidly becoming domestic terrorists. You always hear me say you're 9 times more likely to be killed by a police officer than a terrorist. That's just a number I picked because the actual number was so high that the average person wouldn't believe it. It's something, depending upon who you listen to and how you do the math, it is between 19 times and 29 times more likely to be killed by a police officer than a terrorist. That's crazy. And we need to turn those numbers around. I mean, it's a matter of life and death. Do you get it? And a lot of people are sitting back going, well, the people that say police can do no wrong until it happens to your family. There's a gentleman up in the northwest. I forget his name. Oh, I know. Guy that was beat to death out in California. His dad was a cop. You're starting to see police officers' kids getting caught up and getting beat up and shot and killed. And it's starting to happen because it happens so fast that they don't have time to say, hey, my dad's a cop. Don't beat me up. So it's a matter of life and death. Yes, I'm talking about Kelly Thomas. For us all. For us all. So we need to start looking at ways to turn this around. And the best starting point I can come up with is liability insurance for police officers. I think it just makes sense. It just makes sense. And if somebody else can come up with a better idea, hey, email it to me. Be glad to listen. Be glad to listen. So the next thing we need to start doing is pushing your legislatures for this. And I'm going to start doing some research and figure out just exactly how to attack this. Again, the police unions are going to fight it. They're going to fight it. Just like they fought. Did you know? Here's something for you. If you're convicted of a domestic violence charge, you can no longer possess firearms unless you're a police officer. When they first passed that law in the 90s, a whole bunch of police officers lost their jobs. The unions rallied, went to Congress, and got it amended with an exemption for police officers. That's wrong. That is absolutely wrong. Since when did they become special? Again, the unions are out there making these guys think they're gods, that they reign over us. And honestly, since the government can't use the armed forces against us, they're militarizing the police to do it. Most every police department and sheriff's department that you can find, you will find that they have Homeland Security task force. They're like deputized officers. So regular police officer is deputized and works for Homeland Security. Should not be happening. They no longer work or answer to the people. They are with Homeland Security. And why do they do it? Because they get weapons from Homeland Security. They get full automatic rifles. They get all kinds of weapons and body armor and stuff like that. But more importantly, they get protection from the federal government if they kill somebody or do somebody wrong. How many of you remember Ruby Ridge? I can't see hands. Oh, there's one. There's a couple back there. Yeah, I see. Okay, yeah, a couple of y'all back there in the back. I see you. Yeah, Ruby Ridge. So after Ruby Ridge, Lon Haruchi, the state wanted to charge him and prosecute him for murder in the killing of Vicky Weaver. She was standing behind a door, a glass door, or a door with a glass window in it. And Lon Haruchi shot and killed her while she stood there holding her baby. The state wanted to prosecute him for murder. The United States government, Department of Justice, stepped in and said, no, we won't allow it. That is absurd. Absolutely absurd. For those that don't know, Lon Haruchi was also at the Branch Davidian compound in Waco. Imagine that. Anyway, I'm not going to get up on my soapbox here, but think about this liability insurance thing. Let's start forming a plan to start pushing publicly for it. The only people that would oppose that would be crooked cops, because there's no other reason to oppose it. It just makes sense. That's it, guys. I know it's kind of late, and a lot of you just probably trying to go to bed, and you jumped on here to see what David was up to. Well, now you know. Appreciate y'all popping in, and I hope you found this informative. And there are links in the chat there for the community channel where the body camera footage and all that stuff is at. And I'll also post in the description for this links to the story and the other. No, not David for office. David will not run for office because the cops will assassinate me. It'll happen. Trust me. But you'll find those links. And you guys, y'all have a good night. And I appreciate you popping in to visit.